All right, welcome to the Money Multiplier Infinite Banking Concept, how to become your own banker introductory presentation. So I'm going to spend about an hour and a half with you here this evening. And I really get into how to start taking back control of your money and solve your money problem. And that's what this is all about here today. So my name's Stephen Nagy. Again, my contact information is on the screen. So if you would like to schedule a call with me, or if you'd like to chat more about your situation, if what I'm talking about here today makes sense to you, definitely reach out. I'll answer all your questions and see if we can help get you started becoming your own bank. And by the end of this, that should make a lot more sense for you. So, there's a lot going on right now in this country, in this world. It is the World Economic Forum's going on right now. There's all kinds of global supply chain issues and economic issues. The Fed has printed trillions of dollars over the last couple of years. So we've kept interest rates at basically zero, at times even negative. And we've had incredible growth. The stock market's been booming. The real estate markets have been booming. Everything has been booming and growing and at record highs. Crypto has just gone through the roof. And just here this year, in the last several months, we're starting to see a lot of this stuff kind of get pulled back a little bit. So the stock market's down something like 15% this year so far, 15 to 20%. Crypto's down. Some of it's down 50% or more. The housing market is still running really hot, but the housing market's typically always a lagging change that happens kind of after everything else starts to adjust. The Fed right now is raising interest rates and raising interest rates very fast. The Fed is also starting to release a lot of the bond purchases and financial purchases and stuff that they brought onto their balance books. They're starting to unwind that right now and starting to release billions and trillions of dollars off of their balance sheets. And we're starting to see that in the markets, and we're starting to see that in the economy. So there's going to be a lot of changes happening, and most world-renowned economists and experts will tell you this. I'm not talking about the people on CNBC and the talking heads on the news. Their job is to keep things moving forward and try and pump things up until they can't anymore and everything crashes. So we're talking about people like Ray Dalio and Grantham and people like that. So these are the people that Chris and I study and watch videos and listen to. And so there's going to be a lot of changes. And, I was, just getting into real estate, leaving financial advising when '08 hit. So, I've seen these, I was just starting my investment career at that time. So I've seen one of these real bad crashes. Believe it can happen. So there's going to be a lot of not only changes, but there'll be a lot of opportunities coming up in the next couple of years. So right now is the perfect time to control your money, take back control of your money, whether we're talking about the infinite banking concept, whether we're talking about retirement accounts, which I can get into a little bit later too. But let's get control of that money. Let's understand where our money is, and let's understand how we can have that money ready to go. Because when there's blood on the streets, that's when you need to start getting greedy, right? Be fearful when everybody's greedy, be greedy when everybody's fearful. And, so what we want to do is be prepared for these changes that are occurring, because it's not going to be pretty. Those of you, if anybody on here right now is in real estate, if you are in the position to buy properties like we were in 2010, 2011, 2012, I mean, a lot of those properties have gone up 200, 300, 400% in the last 10 years, especially over the last 2 years, things have doubled. So, and a lot of the places, at least down here in South Florida. So so there's a lot of opportunities. I expect that there's going to be a lot more opportunities coming up in the next couple of years. So that's what this is all about, is being prepared. And, whether you're starting out right now $50,000 in debt, whether you're starting out right now with millions of dollars in the bank, you're here right now because you have a money problem. Now, your money problem might be different. Every single one of you has a different money problem, but you're here because you have a money problem. And that's what we're going to teach you here tonight, is how to solve that money problem. And you're not going to have to work any harder. You're not going to have to work any longer. You're not going to have to take on any more risk. We're just going to change one thing in your financial life, and that's where your money goes first. It's going to go into your own bank instead of somebody else's bank. And that's what I'm going to teach you here tonight, is how to create that and how to follow this concept that's been used for hundreds of years by some of the richest individuals and families in this country, as well as traditional banks. So we're going to get into that, but there's going to be a lot of money and opportunity arising. And then I'll show you different ways that we can use this concept. If you own a business, if you are a real estate estate investor, if you're a private money lender, no matter where you are, or if you're just looking to get out of debt, that's what we're going to cover. How about this? How would you like to learn how to get back every dollar for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own in the future? You guys like that? I'll show you guys how to do that here tonight. So we're going to cover a lot of information. So let's go ahead and dig into this. So these are my two mentors when it comes to this subject. Over the last 14 years, I've had a lot of mentors. They've all provided me education and ideas and strategies and given me the support that I've needed to be in the position that I'm in now today. And Brent Kessler is one of my most recent mentors. And he's taught me more about this concept in the last 3 years. Well, first off, I knew nothing about this concept 3 years ago. So this is new to me as of 3 years ago. But this guy right here, Brent Kessler's taught me almost everything I know about the infinite banking concept and becoming your own banker. And if you guys don't know Brent's story, definitely check it out. You can go to the moneymultiplier.com. Brent is the founder and owner of the Money Multiplier. So go to the moneymultiplier.com, check it out. It's an incredible resource. A lot of training on there, a lot of free education as well about the infinite banking concept. But I want you to go on there and specifically learn more about Brent. Unbelievable guy. Actually just hung out with him this weekend down in Miami. He flew down and met me in his little private airplane. And we sponsored an event, a memorial for somebody from the past. It was just a really beautiful thing that we were able to do, but made some good connections, had a good time while he was down there. And Brent's just an absolutely amazing person. You guys got to get to know Brent if you don't know him yet. And then, of course, this guy right here, Chris Noggle, who, if you're on this presentation right now, I'm sure you know who Chris is. Chris is known as America's #1 money mentor. And Chris, for me, has really taught me a lot more about keeping money moving and the importance of keeping money moving and hard work. Chris is one of the hardest working guys I've ever met in my life. I mean, he has something like 17 companies now and manages a crazy amount of, things and stuff that we always do. And he's a visionary. So he comes up with ideas and we want to implement them. And it's just, it's sometimes it takes from 5 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week to make things like that happen. But when I first met Chris, he had this quote on the screen, one of the first presentations I ever saw Chris give. And it says right there on the screen, it's never about your actual resources. It's about how resourceful you can be. So think about that for just a second. And let me know if that resonates with you. And I had, just to give you an example, I know it resonates with a lot of people because I did a Money Club Mondays yesterday with one of our borrowers, and he brought that quote up right there. And he's like, this is something that Chris says. And I was like, I love it, man. It's great. And it's so true because, like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're starting right now $50,000 in debt. It doesn't matter if you're starting $1 million in debt, or if you're starting with $1 million in the bank with successful businesses or whatnot. It doesn't matter. It's not about your actual resources. It's how resourceful you can be, because there's different strategies that you can follow no matter where you're starting right now that can put you on a track for success and can put you on a track for a better financial future and a better life for you and your family later on. And so it doesn't matter where you're starting. What I'm teaching you here right now will work for you, no matter what side of that coin that you're on right now. Might be a different path to get there, but we have to understand where we are now to understand how we're going to get to where we're going to be. So this is also one of my favorite quotes that I've learned in the last few years, something by Will Rogers. Will Rogers says, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so. So think about that for just a second. And we're going to talk about that, especially right now as we get going with things. Because how many times have you had a conversation with somebody, those of you that said click on here, maybe you've been doing infinite banking now for a little while, or you're just getting started with it, but you're understanding it and you're excited about it, right? So you go out and you start telling your friends and your family, hey, I'm becoming my own banker. I'm going to do the infinite banking concept. It's an unbelievable strategy. And people look at you. What do your friends and family say to you? Oh, you're crazy. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that sounds like a scam, something like that, right? And that stuff happens all the time, and in all kinds of different things when it comes to finances. And there's different reasons why that occurs, but the bottom line is there's so many people that truly do believe what they believe, and there's so many things out there that they should believe that would make things so much better for them, but they can't get out of their own way a lot of the times, or they can't open their mind enough to realize that there's something better. So what I'm going to tell you here while we go through this right now, I'll tell you, I said it right up front earlier, this is a complete change in mindset. This is a mindset shift. We're changing the way that we're looking at money, and we're changing some preconceived notions that we might have had before, that I guarantee you, I promise you that if you can understand the way that this works, it will work for you. So keep an open mind as we go here tonight, and I promise you it'll make a lot of sense by the end. So with that being said, you got percent. So we have thousands of people that register for these events. We usually have about 100 people on them. And so when you do the math on this, it's always about 5% of people learn something and take action, or 5% of people are presented with an opportunity and take action and implement it into their lives. And when we look at statistics, the Social Security Administration tells us that if we take 100 people in the United States of America right now at retirement age, only 5 out of 100 of those people are going to be financially secure enough to be able to retire in the lifestyle and the age and the way that they want to. Only 5%. Think about that. In the richest country that the world has ever known, with more opportunities than ever before. Well, if that's true, if we live in the richest country with more opportunities than anywhere else in the history of this planet, then why are only 5% of people financially secure when it comes to retirement? What that means, think about that. You work your entire life from the time you're, many of us, young, 12, 14 years old, 15 years old, 18 years old, 20 years old, whatever you get out of college, until you're 60, 65 years old. You work all those years, you do what you're told to do, and you can't retire and enjoy the rest of your life. It's bonkers. It's crazy. So we're changing that. We're on a mission to change that. We have dedicated literally our lives to learning and sharing financial strategies and techniques like this right now that will get you out of this rat race, that will get you out of this broken system, and will put you on the path to do whatever you want in life, whatever those goals might be. And I can't tell you what those goals are, because every single one of us on here, Todd, Kevin, Blaine, Christine, Lauren, Moki, Dan, Shirley, Carlos, all of you, William, all of you have different goals, different lifestyles, and different ideas of what success means for you. So I can't decide this for you, but I can show you the path to get there, and I can get you there a lot quicker. And this is what our financial GPS is with. I'll talk a little bit later. So let's talk about this. Why are people not more successful? Why are only 5% of people able to do what they want to do? Well, these are the main reasons. The top 3 are what we teach in our money school 3-day training classes. These are considered wealth killers. So taxes, inflation, and volatility are by far the 3 largest wealth killers that we have to deal with when it comes to financial success. And unfortunately, what do taxes always seem to do? They always seem to go up. But how big is the tax code book? The tax code is, if you guys can see me, it's bigger than my screen. It's bigger than a Bible. It's bigger than an encyclopedia, I think, right? And there's a reason for that. Why is the tax code book like that? Why is it not just a simple 5-page document that everybody can just, let me pay my taxes? They always talk about the fair share. Well, if everybody paid the same amount, wouldn't that be fair, right? No, it's because there's laws and there's rules and there's stuff in this country that are there to benefit people that are educated, financially educated. I'm not talking about doctors and lawyers and MBAs and executives and traditional intelligence. I'm talking about financially educated people. You know, I have one of my mentors when it comes on the tax side of things. He teaches something called 1041 tax strategies, named Solomon Holamani. He says there's 2 tax codes in this country, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. Both are legal. So which one are you following? And there's so many different strategies we can use. So we're going to start looking at that. How can we start using, taking advantage of these rules? And how can we start putting our money into places where it'll grow tax-free? I mean, what would your wealth look like if you could start growing your money tax-free, right? You guys like that? Well, this will accomplish that for you. Inflation, you guys know inflation. Inflation is one of the hottest things all over the news right now. We're constantly hearing about inflation. Inflation's at the highest it's ever been in my entire lifetime right now. Inflation is just a wealthy eroder. That's all it is. What a dollar buys you today will buy you a lot less tomorrow, will buy you a lot less the following year. That's all inflation is. Something like in the last 100 years, we've lost like 92 or 97% of what the dollar's value is. So there's strategies to avoid inflation, how to keep up with inflation. I don't care about inflation because my money is constantly growing through uninterrupted compounding interest, and it's constantly moving, making more money for me. And that's what we need to get you to start doing. How about volatility? Volatility is pretty hot right now. We're seeing that everywhere. What do I mean by volatility? Well, these are those big ups and downs. This is that roller coaster financial ride of the markets, of the stock market right now. So we've had this insane boom for the last decade. And right now we're seeing a pretty hard drop. And many, many people see we're going to see a very, very, very crazy crash coming up. Now, maybe you are younger and you're like, well, I don't care about the volatility because I'm going to let my money in the next 10 years. Well, guess what? There's something called the drawdown effect. Check it out. What that means is if you were to lose 50% of your money, it takes 120 some percent just to make that back. If you lose 30%, a 30% drop, it takes like 80% or something like that to get it back. So it's not as easy as it sounds. And more importantly, if you're at an age right now in life where you're going to need that money to live on, let's say you're approaching retirement, let's say you're 50, 55, 60 years old. Well, what happens when you're planning on your 401k or your retirement funds, your investment accounts being up here, and then all of a sudden they're cut in half because we're in market volatility and things come down? Well, now your lifestyle is cut in half because you have half the money to work with. So volatility can hurt everybody a little bit differently, and there's no reason for it because there's guaranteed places we can put our money. There's strategies we can follow where we don't have to play that roller coaster game. And so we'll start tackling those three. And then, of course, the other three on here are just from experience that I've learned about through life and people that I've spoken to and have heard their stories. And these three come up the most common, these bottom three right here. So following the status quo, again, that goes back to what I was saying before, doing what you've always been told to do. When you start a job, when you're 18 years old or whatever, they ask you, hey, do you want to start a 401k? You're like, well, I don't know what a 401k is. They're like, well, you put the money there, it grows, until retirement and you can pull it out then and use it. And you're like, oh, I guess so. And they're like, well, everybody else is doing it, so why don't you? And you're like, okay, let's do it. Everybody else is doing it, must be right. Right. Or, I can give you a million examples, I'm sure. How about fear? Fear of the unknown, fear of doing something different, fear of getting out of that traditional way of thinking and traditional mindset, fear of starting a business, fear in investing in something. And I agree with all that stuff. You don't want to do things if you don't understand them. But why not take a few minutes and learn something new? I mean, all of you here right now show me that you're serious about making this change in your lives, and you're committed to spending the time to learn it. So a little bit of education, a little bit of support, a little bit of help will overcome those fears. And once you understand something, once you have the support to know you can go out there and do it, that fear just tends to evaporate away. That fear just goes away, and then you're able to move forward. Now, life is one of those ones that's a little bit different, right? Because things can happen in life that we don't plan on. Accidents, unexpected deaths, unexpected car accidents, divorces, emergencies, whatever the case might be, but life can get in the way a lot of the times. So that's one of the more difficult ones. But what I found is if we understand money, we understand what our money's doing for us, and we have things set up properly, whether those are trusts, whether those are different, financial planning strategies, that even when life throws us those curveballs and those unexpected things occur, they don't kill us. At least, it might throw you off track, but if you have an endpoint, right? If we talked about a financial GPS, so if we have a starting point where you are now, and ultimately we have a goal of where we want to be, well, if and we're on our way and life throws us a curveball and we got to swing and we got to swerve, well, if we know where we're going, we're able to get back on track and life won't affect us as much. So that's a beautiful thing. And so these are all things that we're going to start tackling. And I got a really good video I want you guys to watch that's on this right here on mindset and just kind of getting over the traditional way and kind of understanding how that mindset needs to occur. So if you guys go Google this later or go to YouTube and type in the backwards bicycle, and watch this video right here. It's an 8-minute video, but it's amazing. And it just shows you how, we're programmed our whole lives how to ride a bicycle. It's very easy. Anybody can hop on a bicycle when you learned as a kid, and you can ride a bike. It's muscle memory. It's memory in our brains. It's how our brains are wired. Well, if you take a bicycle and you simply reverse how the handlebars operate. So when you turn one way, it actually goes the other way. Well, guess what? You're going to wreck and you're going to crash, and you're no longer going to have to know how to ride that bike with that one simple change. So it's a really cool video just to show you how our minds kind of think and how they work, and how you really need to. And like I was saying before, the more you can come around these webinars and these trainings and the weekly events that we do, come around our campfire, as we call it, the more it's going to help you on your journey to financial freedom and financial success. So check that book, that video out. Here's a few book recommendations I just wanted to throw out to you guys as well. So the concept I'm teaching you here this evening is taught by Robert Kiyosaki. Do you guys know Robert Kiyosaki? So I love Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote the books Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just unbelievable concept, in my opinion. Cash flow quadrant, I think, is really amazing as well. But Robert Kiyosaki, I had the opportunity to have Robert as one of my mentors when I was younger. This was about 12 years ago. Robert was one of my mentors. I ended up actually getting to get on some stages with him and do some trainings and teachings with him. So unbelievable guy and unbelievable teachings. He talks all about the infinite banking concept in his book, Second Chance. How about Tony Robbins? Another unbelievable figure when it comes to business and success and mindset, right? Well, Tony talks all about this concept in his book, Money, Master the Game. Highly suggest that one. This one right here, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. This is like the Bible to the infinite banking concept. You guys got to get this book if you don't have it already, or at least get it on audio and read it and listen to it over at least a couple times. It'll blow your mind and really start setting everything up for you. And then Brent and Chris wrote a book, an updated version of Becoming Your Own Banker, called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. You got to get that one as well. We'll actually send you a free copy of that book if you just pay shipping. And I do have a digital copy of Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, as well as a digital copy of The Private Money God. And actually, if you guys want a free copy of that, let me put in my contact information one more time. If you guys just send me an email or a text and let me know you want those books, what I'll do is I will send you a copy of those, as well as a couple other resources. And then my calendar is on there also if anybody wants to schedule a call. But shoot me a text or an email, and I'll send you digital copies of those bottom two books. And then the top ones, highly recommend checking those ones out as well. Really, really good books when it comes to this, what we're talking about. So again, I'm Stephen Nagy. I was a financial advisor out of college for a couple of years. I went to a real estate investment seminar and learned about in real estate. I learned about entrepreneurship and business. And I ended up giving up all my financial licenses. So I had a Series 7 and 66, and was an advisor with Ameriprise Financial, but gave all that up to pursue my what ended up becoming a dream that I had, and is now a reality of owning businesses and being able to invest in things like real estate and building relationships with amazing people all across the country and building my network. And so that's what I do these days. I'm not actively in real estate right now for various reasons. One of them being the market is just insane to me, and I'm waiting for it to pull back. But more importantly, I do lend those still on deals on specific asset classes that I think will perform well, even if we see a downturn. I'm still very involved in several businesses. Actually, my wife and I are purchasing another business right now. We're in the process of that right now. I just talked to Brent Carlson, who we use for all my LLCs. He's got me a new LLC started right now. So, but I have had a chance to travel all across the country, as well as a couple other countries teaching this stuff. I live down here in South Florida with my wife and my now 6-year-old son, Todd. That's right. No facts, Todd. No more facts. All right, here we go. All right, so let's talk about the mysteries of money. What is the definition of money? See, one of the things, and put this in the chat box. What's the definition of money? What do you guys think? What's the definition of money? And what I found is when it comes to money, it's like one of those things that like you've always been told your whole life, like not to talk about money, right? Like, hey, don't get into politics, and don't ever ask somebody how much money they make. Well, the politics thing seems to be out the window because everybody seems to want to do nothing but talk about politics anymore. But the money thing seems to be still one of those like no-nos, right? Like don't ask somebody how much they make, like don't ask them what they invest in, like all this stuff. At the end of the day, though, all the definition of money is a means for exchange. There it is. Blaine put it right there. Marlene put it right there. A means of exchange. Absolutely. I love some of the other answers. Empress energy. Money is energy. There's a guy, Andrew. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his last name right now. His name's Andrew something, but check, you can type in Money is Podcast. He's a good guy. I go to some masterminds with him and we do some business with him. And but he has a podcast called Money Is, and he brings on celebrities and business owners and entrepreneurs. And that's what he asked them. What is money to you? And some of their answers are really cool. So I love some of those answers you guys are putting out there. But at the end of the day, money is simply a means of exchange. And once we understand that money is not magic, money's not like a no-no to talk about. It's okay to, understand money and study money and learn more about it and make proper investments, and more importantly, take back control of your money. Once we start to understand that money's not a mystery, it's going to make everything a little bit easier to understand. We ask here, what company uses compound interest? And the answer to that is no companies do. Companies like banks sometimes charge compound interest to you, but no company actually use compound interest. Compound interest is a very, very powerful financial tool. And what I'm teaching you here tonight provides uninterrupted compounding interest for the rest of your life. Are your dollars worth more today or in the future? Again, we talked about this before with inflation. Your dollar right now will never be worth more than it is right now. Happened forever in all of history, forever. Taxes always go up. And so, it brings up the question sometimes, what do you know about your retirement account? Let's say you have a 401k at work, right? A lot of people I talk to are putting 10, 12, 15% of their income, of their salary into a 401k. Why? If your company's matching that thing, maybe putting money into it up to the match, maybe that makes sense, because if they're matching, let's say 6%, you put in 6%, it's basically like a free 6%. So it's really 12 going in. So it's like free money. So I don't have a problem as much with that. But why are you putting more in? Why are you just blindly dumping money into a 401k? When you put money in a 401k, you're not paying taxes now, but you are paying taxes when you pull the money out at retirement age. And guess what? You're not only paying taxes on the money you're putting in now, you're paying taxes on any and all growth. So if you put money in there and it grows over the next 40 years, when you pull that money out of your 401k, you're paying taxes on all of that money. And again, what do taxes do over time? They're always going up. When is your dollar worth more today, not in 40 years from now? In a 401k, do you have control of the investments within inside of there? Can you go invest in real estate? Can you go invest in crypto? I know there's a Fidelity 401k right now that's allowing some crypto investing, but typically speaking, no. Can you go invest in precious metals? No. They're going to give you in a 401k some options. You can invest in various funds. You can invest in different indexes, things like that, but you don't have control over it. It's all tied to the stock market, period. So why are we doing that? Why are we blinding putting all this money in there? What if I could show you a way to get tax-free growth on that money? What if I can show you how to get guaranteed growth on your money? What if I showed you that you can control your money and control your investments every single step of the way? And that's exactly what I'm showing you right now today. So if you're putting 15% in that 401k, maybe we look at it. Maybe it makes sense to drop that down a little bit and redirect where you're putting that money for your future. Maybe you can control that money a little bit better. So here's a question, and this is the basics of what we're talking about here right now, but this is something I want to ask you guys. How many of you do you think, can you make money earning 4% while paying 6%? What do you guys think? Can you make money making, yes or no in the comment box? Can you make money earning 4% while paying 6%? Todd, you're not allowed to answer. Okay, Tracy says no. Carlos says yes. Quentin says no. Marlene says yes. All right, Dan says yes. Todd says, Mind blown. I'm drinking beer, watching, and peacing out. Love it. All right. So I asked this question for a reason, because financial common sense almost, right? Like just looking at this from the outside looking in, how the hell are you ever going to make money when you're paying more than you're earning? Well, this is what this whole concept is based off of, basically. And also, this is just financial education. This is just numbers. This is just math. So check this out. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to buy a car for $25,000. Right now, you have $25,000 sitting in your bank account. So you go to the bank and you say, hey, Mr. Banker, I want to pull $25,000 out of my bank account, out of my savings account, to go buy this new car. And the banker says, well, let me make you an offer. What I'm going to do is, instead of you taking the $25,000 out of your bank account to buy the car, we're going to let the money sit in your bank account, earning 4%. Now, first off, I know there's no savings accounts that are paying 4% interest right now, but let me prove my point nonetheless. Okay. So the banker says, listen, we're going to use your savings account, $25,000, as collateral, and we're going to let it sit in there and grow at 4% for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a loan for $25,000 to go buy that car. And I'm going to charge you 6% interest for the next 5 years to buy that vehicle. Okay. So we look at that and we're like, well, Mr. Banker, you're being a banker right now, because I know that banks like to screw people and they like to take advantage of people. And I'm smarter than that. There's no way I'm going to pay you 6% while you're only letting me earn 4% of my savings account. Right? Well, check this out. Watch this. And you guys can get a compound. You guys can get a financial calculator and do this. So the monthly payments on that car for the next 5 years are $483.32 a month. And that's what that would be, paying off $25,000 over 5 months at 6%. So what would happen is, in the future, we would have paid out a total of $29,000. Well, guess what? That $25,000 sitting over there for 5 years at only 4%, that money actually grew to be over $30,500. So we just made over $1,500 by earning 4% while paying 6%. Again, this is just simple math. You guys can take a financial calculator and go do the math on this. The reason for it is because this $25,000 is a depreciating payment each month. So each time we make those monthly payments, that principal goes down. What's going on over here is this is what's called compounding interest. So it's compounding each year as that money sits there at 4% growing for you. And each year it's going to compound at a higher and higher amount because it's compounding each year. So that's why we're able to make over $1,500 in this example, paying 6% while only earning 4%. So pay attention to this as we go, because we're going to be taking loans from this account that we're creating. We're going to have the money compounding at certain rates. So just keep this in mind as we get into this here right now. So this right here is the money multiplier method. It consists of 3 different parts, essentially. So number 1, we have the machine. Number 2, we have the marathon. And number 3 is my favorite. We have the millionaire. So the money multiplier method, the machine, is the vehicle that we use to be able to do this. The marathon is time. Okay. Compounding interest works off of time. So the more time we have, the more that this is going to be able to really start to boom for you. Now, don't worry if you're 50, 60, 70 years old. We work with people that are starting with this all the time at those ages. So don't worry, but this is a marathon. I just want to make that very clear. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not, you're going to become a millionaire overnight. But if you have this machine and if you follow the marathon, the strategy that we teach you, this concept, can almost guarantee that you and or your family will become the millionaire at the end of the day. So what is this machine? So this machine is simply nothing more than a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned insurance company. Okay. Now, let me clarify this. This is a whole life insurance policy. Okay. At the end of the day, but this is not a whole life insurance policy that you call your brother-in-law or your best friend or your family member that sells life insurance. We all know somebody that sells life insurance, right? This is not that, okay? This is a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy built for banking purposes, period. So this is what the money multiplier is. This is what myself, Brent, Chris, and our team does on a daily basis is we design and engineer and create these specially designed policies for banking purposes for you. This is all we do. If you want to buy some other type of insurance or term or IUL or any of that crap that's out there, go to somebody else. That's not us. This is all we do. Now, why do we use a whole life insurance policy as the machine for this concept? Why? And it's plain and simple. It's because this is the only vehicle that allows us to do with what it does legally from the IRS and the government. So the IRS and the government control the insurance industry and how these policies operate and function. And the IRS and the government gives us flexibility and options to build these policies to take advantage of guaranteed wealth growth, to take advantage of tax-free guaranteed wealth growth, to take advantage of uninterrupted compounding interest that's guaranteed and tax-free, all of that, while simultaneously being able to still use the money that we're putting inside the policy to take that money and pay off debt, to take that money and buy cars, to take that money and invest and grow wealth more, to take that money and start a business while it's in this vehicle, growing and compounding, uninterrupted, guaranteed, tax-free every year for the rest of your life until you graduate and pass on to the next place. Period. That's why we do it, because there's nothing else out there that allows us to do it, to do this. Plain and simple, okay? And I want you guys to check this out. There's something called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. And if you guys have questions, make sure you're putting those questions in the Q&A box. I want to answer your questions. I don't want to miss anything. And sometimes the chat box gets going and I'll miss it. So put your questions in the Q&A box. So check this out after this presentation. Go type in BOLI, B-O-L-I, bank-owned life insurance. And what you'll find is banks are the #1 purchasers of whole life insurance in the country, in the world for that matter. Banks have their money in 2 places. Go look this up. You guys can search this stuff up. In 2 places, whole life insurance and real estate. And they have more money in whole life insurance than all of their real estate holdings and investments combined. So think about that. Do banks know what they're doing? Are banks pretty smart when it comes to money? Are banks pretty smart at making money? Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about that as we go. So check out BOLI. Who else uses this concept? Well, some of the richest and most famous families, investors, and businesses, business owners in the country. This strategy and this concept using these whole life policies has been used for hundreds of years. It was used by oil tycoons and billionaires for many, many years. And that's why the IRS finally had to step in the 80s and start putting some regulations on how these things work. They still are unbelievable. We just now have to operate within those regulations. And that's why wealthy people still use them. And so some of the richest. So Jim Harbaugh, do you guys know who Jim Harbaugh is? Jim Harbaugh is currently Michigan Wolverines head football coach. Well, check this out right here. Cash value life insurance makes Harbaugh's college football's top paid coach. This type of deferred compensation alternative appeals to talented leaders and executives. So you guys can go Google this. This is from November 16th, 2016, this article right here. How about Joe Biden, the president of the United States right now? It says right here, Biden also holds 4 checking accounts, 2 of which he shares with his wife. In addition, he holds 6 life insurance policies with Mass Mutual. Mass Mutual is one of the companies that we use to do these policies. Disneyland. So Disneyland might not have existed if it wasn't for whole life insurance, because Walt Disney, when he wanted to start Disneyland after failing in the pursuit of traditional means of financing to build it, Walt decided to provide his own financing. A large part of that came to be by collaterally borrowing money from cash value whole life insurance policies. Couple other ones, the Pampered Chef, using $3,000 she borrowed from an insurance policy. Home economist Doris Christopher started the Pampered Chef in her suburban Chicago home in 1980. And by 2002, the company grew into a $700 million operation, and it was acquired by Warren Buffett for $1.5 billion. Today, the company boasts over 12 million customers. Pampered Chef started using whole life insurance. How about Ray Kroc and McDonald's? Ray Kroc partnered with McDonald Brothers and opened the first McDonald's in 1955. Kroc did not take a salary for 8 years, and to help with cash flow, he borrowed money from his 2 cash value life insurance policies to help cover salaries for key employees, as well as some of the wealthiest families in the country, people like the JPs, the Morgans, the Chases, the Vanderbilts, and the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers have wrote about this concept many, many, many times as well. I think one of them is, what's the Rockefellers book? If anybody knows, put it in the chat for me. I always forget the name of it for some reason. All right, so to understand this concept a little bit better, we need to understand how banks work a little bit, okay? So when you go to a bank, a lot of people think that you take your money there. So you go to the bank, you have like some cash, right? You go to the bank and you say, hey, I want to deposit that money. Well, if I have a $100 bill right now and I take it to the bank, do you guys think that the bank puts your name on that dollar bill and they go stick it in a little box in the back and it just sits there and it waits for you to come back and get it? No, right? That does not happen. Banks take your money and they immediately put that money to work. They get that money moving. So just to give you an example here, let's say you have $100,000. So you go to the bank and you deposit that $100,000 in the bank account. Now, again, when it comes to interest rates and what I'm showing you with this example, I know that no savings accounts are paying 4% right now. I know you can get a home loan for under 7 or 8% right now, although interest rates are creeping back up pretty quickly. But for this example right here, the interest rates don't matter. It's the concept. So follow me, all right? So you take your $100,000 and you deposit it at the bank, and then you go back to the bank and you say, hey, bank, I'd like to buy a house. So they, okay, oh, no problem. We're going to give you a home loan. We're going to give you a mortgage. So you go take that mortgage, it's at 7%. You go purchase the house. The sellers take that money and they put it back in the bank. And then you want to buy a new car for your new garage, right? So you go to the bank and say, I need a car note. I need a loan. They give you a loan at 8%. You take that money to the car dealer, pay the car dealer. The car dealer takes that money. They put it right back in the bank. Home remodel loan, same thing. Get into some debt trouble, same thing. You just take the money, take the loan, use it for whatever you're going to use it for. Whoever got the money takes it and puts it right back in the bank. So this is how banks make money. They're constantly moving money. So here's what happened here. First off, the bank operates off what's called a spread. So if they're paying us 4% on our money, and then they're charging us 7% for this loan, they just made 3%, right? Or if they're paying us 4 and charging us 4, they just made a 4% spread. So spread is the money that we're making. It's the difference, right? So they made 5% off us there. They made 8% off us there. So at the end of the day, they paid us 4% and they just made 20%, right? So they made 20%, we made 4%. And so we're looking at the spread. They just made 16% off of our money sitting at the bank account. Is that right? 16%. Do you guys agree with that? Check this out. The bank actually just made 500% off of our money that's sitting at their bank. So follow me there. If we made 4% and they made 20%, that's 5 times more money that they made. So that's 500% they just made off of our money that's sitting at their banks. So why aren't you guys doing this? Why aren't you guys making that money? Would you agree that banks have lots of money? Financially, they do very well. I mean, think about the real estate that they own, the most beautiful skyscrapers in cities all across the world. They have branch offices all over the place, all over the country, everywhere. Every couple miles, I feel like there's a Wells Fargo, right? They're very good. So because they're making all this money and they need to go out there and buy things with it. So they're making all this money off of your money. And you guys don't have to take my word for it. Banks make between 400 and 1,300% off money that you leave there. That's straight from BauerFinancial.com. So if you want to learn more about banks, what they invest in, how they operate, how they make money, and what I'm showing, how they make money off the money that you're leaving at their banks, go to Bauer Financial after this and check that out. And you can read and study all about it. It's really amazing stuff. So if we know banks are making all this money off of us, and banks are making, their families all rich. What if we start taking back control of that money? What if we start flowing that money from them and putting that into our own bank? Do you start seeing the significance now of becoming your own bank, becoming your own banker? Because if we own that bank, now we can start making money off of our money, just like the banks do. You guys like that idea right there? So how do we start clearing up some of the money? How do we use this concept to build wealth while continuing to pay off debts? Or how do we use this concept to build wealth with everyday expenses? So check this out right here. If we take a dollar bill, this is on average across the country. So your personal finances might be a little bit different, but if we take a dollar bill, what we know through data and statistics and research is that, for every dollar that is spent in this country by an average American, 20% or 20 cents of that dollar goes towards an automobile. Okay. Whether that's a payment, whether that's gas, maintenance, upkeep, insurance, whatever the case is, 20 cents of every dollar that we make goes towards automobiles. 30 cents of every dollar that we make goes towards housing. 40 cents of every dollar that we make goes to everything else, whether that's travel, kids, entertainment, food, whatever the case might be, which leaves us with 10 cents of every dollar that we make goes to savings. Okay. So here's what we can start doing using this concept, where these everyday debts and expenses we can start using to build wealth. So check this out. So let's build this backwards. Let's build this dollar backwards. So we're going to start with the 10 cents in savings. Very important. Pay yourself first. So 10 cents in savings. We're going to start with that. Now, let's look at the automobile. If we look on average of the 20 cents that is spent on automobiles, 5 cents of that 20 cents goes towards interest. Okay. So 5 cents of that 20 cents that you're spending on your automobile goes towards interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that interest, and instead of giving it to somebody else's bank, we're going to take that 5 cents and we're going to put it into our own bank, where it's now in our savings account. Okay. So by doing that one thing right there, changing where our money flows to our bank and paying our bank that interest, that 5 cents on that automobile, we just increased our savings, annual savings, by 50% by doing that one thing. Because if we were saving 10 cents before, and now that extra 5 cents is going into savings, we're at 15 cents. That's a 50% increase in our savings. That one thing right there. But let's keep going here. Housing. If we look on average, out of the 30 cents that people spend on housing, 25 of that 30 cents goes to interest. And if you're renting, 100% of it goes to interest, right? But 25 out of every 30 cents goes to interest. Why is that such a big number? Think about this for a minute. Did you know that over 90% of all interest you pay on a 30-year fixed mortgage is paid in the first 7 years? Over 90% of interest is paid in the first 7 years. Did you know that the average person refinances or moves and gets a new mortgage on average every 7 years? That's no coincidence. There's a reason the banks and the mortgage companies and loan companies tease us with these rates about every 7 years and get us to refinance. Or the market does this, where it kind of makes you want to sell and rebuy about every 7 to 10 years, because they want you to refinance. They want you to get a new mortgage. They want to get 90% of all that interest in the first 7 years. So that's why that's such a high number. So what if we take all that interest that we're giving to other banks and we put that into our bank, into our savings account? So we're increasing our savings. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do this in just a second, but I just wanted to go through the basics of it first. And then what we know is out of the everything else, the 40 cents of everything else, another 5 cents of that 40 cents goes to interest on average. So we're going to take that back right there. So we just did by doing nothing different, just changing where our money goes first, we just increased our savings from 10 cents to 5, 10, what is the 25, 35, 45. We now have 45% of our money is now able to go into our savings account instead of just 10, not doing anything different, plain and simple. So how do we get back all the money for every car that you'll ever buy, drive, and own? Well, before I show you how to do that, let's take a little look under the hood. So not under the hood of that beautiful vehicle, because I can tell you it's a beautiful V8 in there, but under the hood of this insurance policy. So over on the right side is what we call a illustration or a money multiplier map. And it's going to show your age, the policy year, the money going into the policy. It's going to show what we're using it for. It's going to show you the cash value. It's going to show you the death benefit. So it shows you all of this stuff. So this is a little look under the hood. And all of you are going to get this in an illustration. But a couple things to mention right now. First off, you'll see the money going into this policy. We're going to start referring to this as deposits. Okay. So I know with a life insurance policy, you're paying premiums, but I want you to change that mindset, because you're going to these premiums that you're paying into your whole life insurance policy. These are going to become deposits into your banking policy. Because if you go to the bank to deposit some money into your savings account, you don't look at that as like, oh, I got to go put money into the bank, into my savings account. You're like, yeah, I'm growing my savings. I'm growing my wealth. I'm going to go deposit some money at the bank. Well, I want you to look at this the same way. This is now your bank. We're getting traditional banks out of your life. We're not going to let them make 500% off of you anymore. We're taking back control of this money. So this money going into this policy is now deposits. Very, very important. Second, age does not matter. You can be 6 months old. You can be 6 weeks old. You can be 60 years old. It doesn't matter. Okay. Even if you're unhealthy, even if you're 80 years old and you can't qualify for one of these policies, we have solutions for you. So age doesn't matter. And whether you're 20 or whether you're 60, the way that these perform for banking purposes, now a 60-year-old might have a little bit less death benefit, might take another year to become super efficient, but at the end of the day, the age isn't going to matter. We build these policies for banking purposes, so that none of that matters. And there is a death benefit on this policy. That death benefit will be paid out tax-free, but that's not the reason that we build these policies. We build these policies for banking purposes to take back control of that money. So that's just a quick little glance under the hood of this thing. So let me get into this over here a little bit more. Let me show you details how this works right here. So this example right here was for a policy that the person wanted to deposit $10,000 a year into it. Now, the amount that you deposit into these policies, we will never tell you how much to put into them. That's completely up to you. We'll recommend like what a guideline minimum might be, 10 times your age on a monthly basis. We might say, hey, you know what? 10% of your gross income on an annual basis might make sense for your annual deposit amount for your first policy. But you can put in 5,000 a year, 10,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 100,000 a month. I'm never going to tell you how much to put into this thing. That's completely up to you. But in this example right here, this person decided they wanted to put $10,000 a year into the policy. So they started putting $10,000 a year into the policy. Then we got to the third year of this thing and they said, okay, now I want to buy a car. So the third year of this policy, they pulled $25,000 out. So you'll see over here the cash value, the first year available, 5,800, the second year available, 12. The third year available, it was 37, but once we took out the 25, it dropped it down to the 42. Okay. So we pulled out the $25,000 from that policy to use it to purchase a car. And then what we did is we said, okay, well, if I went to the bank and borrowed the bank's money, I would definitely pay the bank back on this loan. So when I go to my policy to take $25,000 out, I'm going to pay myself back. I'm going to be an honest banker. That makes sense, right? So what we show right here is the $25,000 coming out to purchase the car. And then the car loan repayment is the payments going back into the policy. So it's just, we just did simple math on this one. It was $500 a month over 5 years to be an honest banker. So in this case right here, we put $70,000 into this policy. We took $25,000 out of the policy, and then we repaid ourselves $30,000 back into it. So at the end of the day, we put $100,000 into the policy, and we took $25,000 out of it for a total of $75,000. You guys following me so far? We now have a vehicle, $25,000 vehicle, sitting in our driveway that's bought and paid for. Now, you'll notice right here in my account, there's still $67,000. So I put $75,000 in. I bought a $25,000 car that I still have, and I still have $67,000 sitting in my banking account. So what we were able to do is we were able to recapture 91 cents of every dollar you spent on that car. We were able to recapture back into our financial lives. But I told you before, I want to teach you how to do 91 cents. I'll teach you how to get back all of the money you'll ever spend to buy driving cars in the future. Because here's the best part. This policy doesn't stop after the 7th year. This thing is going to continue to grow and compound, and you're going to be using it for banking every year for the rest of your life. Now, in this policy, for this example, just to show you how it works, we stopped putting money into it. We stopped depositing money. Now, in reality, you would never want to stop funding your own bank, because why would you? These policies become more and more efficient over time because of the uninterrupted compounding interest aspect of them. So in reality, you would never want to stop putting money in. You're going to wish you could put more money into this thing when you see how strong that this thing grows over time. But for this example, we stopped putting money into it. And in the 8th year, they wanted to buy another car. You know, this one was getting 5 years old, kind of lost the new car smell. So they said, let's buy another car. So they took $25,000 from the policy, but we did it again. We went and said, okay, well, if we borrow money from our bank, we're going to repay our bank. So we recaptured that money as well. So at the end of the day, over those 5 years, we put no additional deposits in, but we did recapture 30,000 of that 25,000 that we took out. So we had a net injection of $5,000. Now, look at this. From the 7th year over this 5-year time span, we put $5,000 into the policy, but look what happened. The policy grew from $67,000 to over $91,000. It grew by $23,500. All we did was stuck in $5,000, and it grew by over $23,592. So what we're able to do here is we have 2 vehicles. We've put in the $75,000, the $5,000. We pulled the $25,000 back out, and we still have over $91,000 sitting in our account, ready to go, as well as 2 vehicles sitting in our driveway, completely paid for. So if I have 2 vehicles that are $50,000 and I have $91,000 available, that tells me I've recaptured all of the money that I've spent to buy, drive, and own these vehicles. And this just keeps going on and on and on. What about your next vehicle? And if this works for cars, what else can it work for? What else can you use to buy? Maybe a boat, maybe a cell phone, maybe an airplane, maybe real estate, investment property, maybe a business, maybe a house. Yes, Tracy. What else can you use this concept for? Anything and everything. It's literally the infinite banking concept. So there are 3 rules that we want to follow when it comes to the infinite banking concept and being your own banker. Number 1 is pay yourself first. Okay. You want to continue to fund this policy. You want to continue to pay yourself first. Number 2, pay yourself with interest. So when you borrow money out, always pay yourself back and always pay yourself with interest. You're worth it. A bank's not going to typically give you an interest-free loan, so don't give one to yourselves. And number 3, always recycle and recapture your money. So let me ask you this question. If you go to the bank right now and you borrow money to buy a car, you buy that car, and in 2 years from now, you have some financial issues, you have some financial trouble, and you cannot make that car payment anymore, right? What is going to happen with that car? Well, within the next couple weeks or couple months, you're going to look out there in your driveway and you're going to see a tow truck pull up, and they're going to hook up your car that you've had for a couple of years, and they're going to tow that thing away. And they're not stealing it, they're repossessing it. Anybody ever been through that before? It's not a fun feeling, right? Now, that's a traditional bank. Let's say you go to your own bank and you borrow the money, and in a couple of years from now, you get into financial trouble and you can't pay yourself back your loan. What's going to happen? Well, it's up to you, right? You're in charge. You're the banker. If that happened to me, I would say, hey, Steven, I'm going to cut you a break. I'm going to let you keep the car. And whenever you get yourself financially back on track, why don't you just start paying me back at that point? Fair enough. You can keep the car and just start paying me whenever you're ready. Awesome. It's a deal. Does that sound a little bit better than looking out in the driveway and seeing that tow truck hooking up and repossessing your vehicle? Remember, you're the banker. You're in charge. You set the terms. You set the rules. You set the interest rate. You set it all. It's completely up to you. I told you before, I wanted to show you how to use this to pay down debt a lot faster than otherwise possible, how to pay down debt while continuing to build wealth. So check this out. Let me show you this example. So this is a real case study. This was a chiropractor, one of Brent's clients a number of years ago. But this was a policy that in a map, a debt map that we created for this actual person right here. So this was a chiropractor. They had a total of $478,000 in third-party debt. So what we did is we ran the numbers, and they were paying out $5,777 a month for a total of over $69,000 a year in third-party debt. Now, one thing you'll learn, or you might already experience, it always seems to be the more money you make, the more money you spend, right? Just it seems to happen a lot of the time. So this guy right here was making good money, but he also started to buy a lot of things, and that debt really started to add up on him. And that's the situation that he caught himself in. $478,000 owed to other third-party debtors. So what we did is we did the numbers, and if he was to pay all this off as planned, it would take him 19 years. So we said, well, I think we could do a little bit better than that. So what we did is we started a money multiplier, infinite banking, specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy for this chiropractor. Now, this policy, he wanted to put in $25,000 a year. Again, how much you're putting into this thing is completely up to you. He wanted to put $25,000 a year into it. So in year one, he puts $25,000 in. He has cash value available of almost $15,000, $14,000 available. So you'll see you put 25 in, you don't have the full 25,000 available immediately to pull back out. It takes time for this thing to become efficient. Okay. It takes a few years. Now we do build stronger policies now. This was about 8-9 years ago. now we're able to build stronger policies. So your cash value immediately is going to be higher than what I'm showing you in this example, but I have not updated this example for a reason. I always love to under promise and over deliver. And if this works with this policy, it's going to work even better with the policies that we design these days. And if you're like a real estate investor or a business owner and you need real high cash value immediately, well, just let me know that and I'll build you a very, very high cash value policy immediately. But check this out here. So what we did is we took that $14,863 out of the policy and we now paid off the Discover card and the Lowe's card. Okay. Now what we're going to do here is we just eliminated $448 in payments. But remember rule number 3, we always want to recycle and recapture our money. So when we're going to use this money to pay off this debt, $448 a month, well, now we're not giving that $448 a month to Lowe's and Discover. Who are we now going to give it to? Ourselves. So instead of giving it to Discover Card and Lowe's Bank, we're now going to give it to Bank of Stephen. So we're going to continue making those monthly payments, but instead of making those monthly payments to them, we're going to be making monthly payments back to myself. Okay. Year 2 of this policy, another $25,000 goes in. That year it grew by $16,571. Every year that you have this policy, the cash value is going to be stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's thanks to that uninterrupted compounding interest. We also have $5,374 available that we recycled and recaptured from that $448 a month, right? So we add these two up. We now, in the second year, have $22,000 available to go pay off this debt. So we did that. We paid off the Nordstrom card, the Wells Fargo card, the private loan, and we reduced the balance of the BMW a little bit. So now we're going to take those monthly payments and we're going to bring those back. So we now have $1,917 that was going to other people is now coming back to us with only $3,800 going to third-party debtors. Third year, same thing. 25 goes in. In the third year, we have a little bit over $25,000 of that 25 we put in to pull back out, along with $23,000 of recaptured payments for a total of $48,000 cash available to tackle debts. We pay off the BMW, we pay off the West Marine, and we lower the balance of the condo. We recycle and recapture those monthly payments back to ourselves. Now, before I go any further, let me make sure you guys are following what I'm telling you. So put this in the comments. How much did we put in? 25 the first year, 25 the second year, 25 the third year, for a total of $75,000. And then we took how much out of the policy? 14,000, 16,000, and 25,000. So if I put 75,000 in and took 55,000 out, how much do I have left in my policy right now? How much? So those of you that are saying $20,000, that would make sense, right? Put in 75, pulled out 55. So you have $20,000 left. No. You actually still have $75,000 remaining in your policy. Because you'll notice right here where this says loans, when we pull money from the policy, we're not actually taking the money out of the policy. The money remains in the policy and we're using that money as collateral and we're borrowing money from the insurance company's general account. And that allows our money to stay within our account, within our policy, compounding and growing uninterrupted. While simultaneously we take those loans out of the policy and we use that money. And that's what allows us to still have 75 in there, even when we pulled out $55,000 to tackle debt. So keep that in mind, because you're going to hear me say this over and over. Every dollar you put in starts compounding uninterrupted for the rest of your life, even when you simultaneously pull that money out and you use it to tackle debt, to buy cars, and to invest. All right, so year 4 of this policy, another $25,000 goes in. Same thing, 26 available, 44,000, 70,000 in payments. Now we weren't able to recapture any additional payments in that month because when you lower a mortgage, the monthly payment remains the same. It doesn't go away until we completely get rid of the debt. So we weren't able to recycle or recapture any, but we continued to recapture the 3677. So in the 5th year of this policy, we now are able to pay down that condo, reduce the balance of the house, and recapture 4,500 a month back to ourselves, with only 1,200 going to third-party debtors. Now, in the 6th year of this policy, something interesting happens. Because of MEC rules back when this policy was created, and MEC rules are what I was talking about earlier, with the IRS controls how these policies operate. Well, when we build a policy, we have to operate within those regulations. So one of the things is that you're going to see on your policy is sometime between the 7th and 10th year, the amount of money you're depositing into it each year is going to drop. So it's going to drop pretty significantly. So it happened on this policy in the 6th year. So the 6th year of this policy, instead of 25,000, they were only able to deposit $10,000 in. But because it's in the 6th year of the policy, and because of compounding interest of all that money that we've been putting in over the first 5 years, the policy grew by over $13,000. So if I put 10,000 in and it immediately grows by 13,000, how much of a cash on cash return did I get that year? 30%. So I had a cash on cash increase of 30% tax-free growth of the money that I deposited into that policy in the 6th year of that policy. Now, what they wanted to do is in the 6th year of having their banking system, this chiropractor said, well, I love what we're doing. I love the way this works. I love that I'm freeing up my money right now, so I have more money to put into it. So I want to start another policy. So whenever you're ready to start growing your banking system and put more money through it, that's when you just open up more policies. So Brent has like 22, Chris has like 12 or 13 now. I'm working on my 3rd or 4th right now. So you just keep adding policies as you grow financially. So that's exactly what this chiropractor did. So they put 25, or they put 10 in, 13 available, put another 25 in the first policy. Again, we're back down to 14.8 available. So we add all that up. We now are able to get rid of that house payment, and we eliminated all third-party debt in 6 years. Now, again, we're going to continue to recycle and recapture all that money that was going to other people back into our policy. And then once it's in our policy, what are we going to do with it from there? We're going to deploy it out to the next use. We're going to deploy it out to the next purchase. We're going to deploy it out to the next car. We're going to use it for our next business. We're going to use it for our next real estate deal, whatever the case might be. And we're going to do that over and over and over. And I'll show you this circle of money. But first, this is a debt map. So what I just showed you on how we created that plan of action for that chiropractor to pay off $450,000 in debt in 6 years that otherwise would have taken 19 years. We're going to create that plan for you as well. We call it a debt map. It's a financial GPS that I was talking about earlier. And it's going to show you, so what our mapping team is going to do with you. And guys, this is free of charge. We don't charge you for this. This is included being a client of ours. As long as we start your policy and you're our client, we give you all of this support, help, and mapping free of charge. Again, we don't want you to have fear to do this. We don't want any problems with you getting started. So we're going to hold your hand for this entire process from start to finish. So we're going to do a cash flow analysis with you, and we're going to do a couple of phone calls with you to set up your debt map. And then we're going to update this with you every 3 to 4 months to make sure you're on track, to see if anything's changed, and to make sure that we're able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So we're going to do all of this for you. This is your financial debt map and financial GPS. And so here's a question. What if you don't have any debt like that? What if you don't have any third-party debt right now? What if you don't need to buy a new car right now? Can you still benefit from privatized banking? Can you still become your own banker? And the answer is absolutely. This is where the fun begins, because this is where we can start using our banking policy while it's compounding tax-free growth to start investing and growing our wealth. And this is where it becomes very, very fun. So again, we're going to be able to start creating wealth multiple ways simultaneously. So real estate investors, we work with a lot of real estate investors, whether that's flippers, long-term, Airbnbs, wholesalers, maybe you're buying apartment complexes or commercial properties. Maybe you're buying mobile home parks, all great uses for this banking system, this banking concept. Maybe you're investing in private funds, you're doing private money lending, maybe you're a business owner, maybe you like stocks, maybe you trade options, maybe you do crypto, maybe you're doing real estate notes. Whatever the case might be, you'll be able to create wealth multiple ways using this strategy. And by the way, if anybody wants to learn any of these strategies and how they work with the infinite banking concept, and specifically learn these strategies, join us in Buffalo. We're doing a live in-person event in Buffalo at the end of July. And Chris, myself, Devin, Brent Kessler, we're all going to be up there. A bunch of other people. We're all going to be up there teaching these concepts and strategies live and in person. It's a 2-day training event. And the third night, or the first night, if you come, it's going to be a 3-day. If you want to come with us, we're going to do a baseball game and a networking event. But it's 2 full days of training. So check that out. And join us in Buffalo. And if you can't make it to Buffalo, if you can't travel, we will have a virtual option. So it's going to be a hybrid event. So you can do it virtually from your home, or you can join us, which I recommend, in person in Buffalo, New York. So check that out. And I can send you guys a link if anybody wants to see that, if you don't have it yet. All right. So like I said, becoming the millionaire, if you follow these strategies, is almost inevitable, right? And so there's 2 things that I've found that you need to create wealth. You need compounding interest. Einstein said it best. Einstein said, compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it, pay it. Those who understand it, use it. Those who don't, pay it. And then when we start talking about uninterrupted compounding interest, that's on a whole different level. So I just put my contact information in the chat box one more time, and just let me know, and I can send you a link for that Buffalo event as well, if you guys want to join us for that. So let me show you. This is a couple details about this. So this is what's called an illustration. So this was a policy that we did for a 41-year-old lady. She is a real estate investor, and she's going to use this policy for real estate investing. And she wanted to put $150,000 in the first year. And then she wanted to put $50,000 a year in annually. So one thing we can do when you set up the call with me, let's talk about, is you can do the first year what's called a dump in. So if you just cashed out of some stuff at these market bubbles that we're in, maybe you cashed out some stocks, maybe you sold some real estate, maybe you just been saving a bunch of money in savings, not knowing what to do with it. Well, you can dump that money in the policy. And in this case right here, up front, and in this case right here, they wanted to dump 150,000 in the first year, but they didn't want to commit quite yet financially to 150,000 every year. So what we did is we set it up where they put the 150 in the first year and then 50,000 a year annually after that. And then, like I mentioned a minute ago, after the 10th year of this thing, that drops down to 17.5, and then that continues to go in. Over here, we can see the death benefit, 2.3 million the first year. And then I'll talk a little bit more about this, the rest of this, in a minute. But the increase in net cash value is how much the policy grows tax-free. This is the amount that's available for loans, the cash value. And this is how much this thing grows, as they put money in. I mean, look at this. In the 11th year, she's 51 years old. She puts $17,000 into the policy, and it immediately grows by over $45,000. And then she takes that 45, she puts 17 in, takes the 45, does a private money loan, puts it in a real estate deal, buy some crypto, buy some gold and silver, some precious metals, whatever. 12th year, 17 goes in, grows by over 47,000. As I said before, it just gets bigger and bigger every year for the rest of your life. So that's what the illustration looks like. This is how the policy is going to perform over time. Here's another example. This one was a 38-year-old guy. They put $50,000 in the first year up front, and then they wanted to start putting $500 a month in immediately. So the first year, they ended up putting $56,000 into this thing, had 51,000 available the first year. So that was a $50,000 dump in, and then immediately starting to put 500 bucks a month in. So you can, when you pay your premium deposits into this policy, you can pay in monthly, quarterly, biannually, or all up front each year. That's completely up to you. And that's flexible to change each year as well as your finances dictated, depending on what you need to be able to do. So this case, they wanted to do 5,000 to immediately start doing $500 a month into that policy. So the second year of this thing, they had a 21% cash on cash return. I mean, look at these, when they're 62 years old, 281% cash on cash return. That policy really started to take off. So this is just a quick example of how money flows. So here's your life insurance policy right here. One of the things we're going to teach you with our mapping team is we're going to teach you how to create what's called a segregated bank account. So a segregated bank account is nothing more than just a separate, plain old checking account that's used just for running money through it. Okay. No money's going to sit there. No money's going to do anything in that checking account. We're just using the bank to give us a free checking account so we can move money. So what this looks like is you take a loan from the money multiplier policy. Your loan rate's going to be anywhere from 3 to 5% that you pay the insurance company. So in this case, they pull $23,000 out. It goes into the segregated bank account. And then what we do is we take that money and put it into a private money loan. So we run something called a private money club that connects borrowers and lenders and borrowers. So if you want to get into private money lending, or if you want to borrow money from private money lenders for real estate deals you have, check out the private money club, privatemoneyclub.com, or let me know. The average rate being paid on private money in there right now is 12%. So what we did is we took the loan from the policy at 4% into the segregated bank account. We lend it out at 12%. Now we capture that monthly 12% coming back in to our monthly bank account. We pay our policy back the 4% and we keep the spread. So just like the banks I was showing you earlier, we're working off that spread. So that spread right there is 8%. And we cycle it back into the policy again, while the money simultaneously sits in there and compounds and grows uninterrupted, tax-free. That's just a little example of how a simple example of how money flows using the system for a private money deal. Here's another example of a private money deal. So here's that illustration I showed you a minute ago. So in this case right here, they wanted to do a private money loan. So again, I was showing you this before. In the 8th year of this policy, they put in $48,000. The policy grew by $66,000. So the 8th year of this thing, they had a 37% cash on cash return. And what they did is they wanted to do a private money loan with this money. So they put the money in, they got the cash on cash return, they immediately borrowed that money back out in a private money deal. So they made 12% of the private money deal. They made 37% inside their private bank. They paid 5% to the insurance company for the interest. So they made a 44% return on their money that year. So let me ask you this question. We did nothing different except where the money goes first. So instead of depositing this money into a savings account or a checking account, we deposited it into our money multiplier account. And by doing that and then lending the money out, because if I was to put that money into a savings account or a checking account and then lend it out on a private money deal, well, I'm going to make 12%. That's it. But by lending it out from this policy, we made the policy growth along with the 12%. So by doing nothing else different, what would you rather make, 12% or 44% returns on your money? You tell me. And that is, in essence, what it's like to be your own banker. And we did not even really talk about the death benefit, although it's there and it gets paid out tax-free to your beneficiaries. By the way, I talked a lot about paying yourself back. The loans don't have to be repaid. So we create maps for people all the time later on for retirement plans where you're taking money out of the policy and letting the policy fund and pay for itself. You're not repaying any of these loans. So there's different strategies that we can follow later on. Internal growth is tax-free. Also, we can use these things for our businesses. So we can give our businesses loans from these policies and have our businesses use this money. We do that all the time. I don't have time right now to really get into that. But it's an awesome strategy, and that's how we use our policies. Actually, the new business that my wife and I are buying right now, my wife is funding that business. We're funding that business from one of our policies. So we're actually purchasing a business using our policies, our banking system right now. Kids policies, those are unbelievable for college, for things like that. I just started a policy last year for my 5-year-old son, and that's what we're going to use as a means for his college. And not only that, but I'm able to teach my son how to use this policy and this concept in his financial life when he gets old enough. So the plan is when he turns 16 years old, we're going to use his policy to purchase his first car, not only to teach him responsibility, but also teach him this concept. So lots and lots of things you can do with kids policies. And what I said before, these things work off of the best off of time. That's how compounding interest. So if a child can compound their money for 80, 90, 100 years, imagine what that will look like. It's insane. Spoiler alert. It's amazing what it looks like. So again, we no longer want to see why you're using these things that, these are not reasons anymore to not be successful. These are excuses. And I want you to look at these are just excuses, because once you learn the strategies, once you have a team that's here to help you and support you do it, we'll put a big X through these things, because they will no longer be factors in your financial future. Do what the wealthy do what the banks do. Warren Buffett says it best. If poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Warren Buffett has such a knack for just simplifying things, right? Warren Buffett's also the guy that says, buy low, sell high, and don't lose money. It makes it sound so easy, right? Well, this is one of those things that's very, very true, though. It's very easy to mimic and do what the wealthy do. And this right here is one of those concepts. So ask yourselves these two things. Are we better off with this when we're alive right now? And are we better off with or without this policy when we die and pass away and graduate? To me, the answer is an outstanding yes to both of these, for reasons that I just explained to you, right? So going back to Will Rogers, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know. That just ain't so. And I hope that I taught you something here over the last hour and a half, something that maybe you never knew about before. And now you can say to yourself, like, holy cow, this is a whole different level. And hopefully you take action on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up calls with anybody that's interested in this. So if you guys want to shoot me a text message and email, I will send you over my schedule link, or I'll just put it right now in the chat box. You can click that link right there, schedule a call with me. What we'll do is we will talk about your situation, your financial situation, your debts, your goals, and we will figure out whether this is right or not for you. And if it is right for you, we'll start you with the approval process. We'll get things moving forward for you. Again, there's no cost for this or anything like that. So it doesn't hurt to have that conversation. So schedule a call with me, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and let's get you guys set up. So with that being said, hopefully you guys got some value out of this here this evening. I want to answer your questions. So if you guys have questions, put those in the Q&A box and I will answer those right now. So the first one's from Marlene. It says, since tax-free, so then no penalties. Right. As long as you're treating the whole life policy properly, there's no penalties or anything like that. It's all tax-free growth. So Marlene says, I deal in credit. So types of loans help your credit scores. I'm assuming these aren't reported. Correct, Marlene. When you take a loan, it's not reported anywhere. So how or when or if you use that loan is up to you. Whether you have loans out or not is not reported anywhere. So you could have $1 million loan out and nobody would even know about it. So it's not affecting like your debt to income or anything like that. And additionally, just to expand on that, most mortgage companies and banks, I mean, talk with your loan officer, but if you're taking money from a policy as a down payment, again, banks are the number one purchasers of whole life insurance. So most of them understand whole life and how this works. And so they're happy for the money to come from something like that for a real estate transaction. So Marcella is asking, do you work with agents as well? Yeah, give me a shout, Marcella, and we see what we can do. So William said, I wish I could get my call quicker than what is scheduled. So William, if you want to shoot me a text message, a lot of times I do have additional openings on my schedule and I can fit you in the early morning or at lunchtime or in the evening. Sometimes on Mondays and Fridays, I leave some room open just so I can get to emails and follow up with people I need to follow up with and get back to text messages and things like that. So I a lot of times do have extra room in my schedule. So if you are scheduled too far out and you want to talk with me sooner, by all means, shoot me a text or an email and let's see what we can do to get that done quicker. Let's see. Madeline said, I've been really listening more than commenting today. I'm waiting for some money that I will be receiving. Yeah, Madeline, that's awesome. I'm glad you were sitting here listening and taking it all in. I will say this. The approval process to get started with one of these policies does take about 6 weeks on average, sometimes longer. So if you know that you have some money coming up that you're going to want to dump into this thing, let's get the policy approval started for you. We can drag it out a little bit. Once you're approved, we have plenty of time to delay it a few months, if you're waiting for the money to come in. Or maybe we start with monthly payments, and as soon as you have the dump in money, we just dump it in later this year. It can be done anytime during the first year. So let's definitely, Madeline, at least get that call scheduled and get the conversation started, and then we can go from there with it whenever you're ready financially. Paul, this is available in Canada. Yes, it is. We don't do the Canadian policies ourselves. We're not licensed for that. But we do have excellent partnerships in Canada with some amazing people. If you were at our Daytona event, you met one of the guys, Jason, that does some of our Canadian policies, but it depends what region you're in Canada. But yeah, we do these in Canada, US and Canada only, to be clear. So just shoot me an email, Paul, and I will connect you with our Canadian partners. So Marlene's asking, my sister was working, so she missed the first half. Will there be a review? There will be, Marlene. So we put the recording for this on the YouTube channel over the next day or two. Or if you email me, I will send you a recording of it as soon as it's ready. I also just streamed this to my Facebook page. So if you go to my Facebook page, just find me on Facebook, Stephen Nagy, and friend me. You should be able to just see it right on my Facebook page as well and watch it that way. But if you email me, I will email you a link for the YouTube version of it, which should be available in the next 24 hours. All right, guys. Well, that is all the questions that I see. I look forward to talking with all of you again. If you want a free copy of that book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, the digital version, as well as some other resources, shoot me a text or email and I'll send that over to you. And if you want to chat, schedule a call so we can get that call scheduled. Hey, John, thanks for being here. John has been a client and been coming for years and years. So it's great to see somebody with experience. You can never be around the campfire enough. So thanks for being here, guys. Can't wait to talk with all of you, and we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Join us for the wealth webinar and all the webinars that we do. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.